fat caps and shit, pilots and shit, Griffin, homemades, layups, the whole shit, man. For all my real graph niggas, son. Y'all niggas know what it is, niggas out nightly, son. Getting that tag on and shit, yo. I reminisce days wearing all black, paint in my knapsack. Summer squash yellow calling me, I had to rack that. Freaking forward inside, burgundy outline, late make a strip shine. Nigga, I take mine.
Yo, what's up, everyone? This is a new episode of When Worlds Collide. We got a special guest. We got House from Furious Styles.
Peace. What's good, everybody?
Yo, man, I just want to thank you for coming on the show, dude. I've been a big fan, dude. I've been watching your stuff from the 90s, all the stuff that you do with the youth. Teaching them breakdancing and just all of that. You know, the stuff that you've contributed in Phoenix to the scene of hip hop has been absolutely amazing. And dude, I think what you do with the youth is probably one of the most admirable positions to be in. You know, because not only are you, you know, teaching them a valuable asset and something that they can, you know, learn from and do, but you know, you're definitely teaching them life skills and stuff like that, dude. And so I definitely commend you for all the work that you've done throughout the years. So I mean, I just want to get right into it. So where did you grow up at?
So I was born in Mexico City, but I was raised in Chicago. So I was in Chicago until 90 when I moved out here.
Oh, nice, man. I've been to DFA once to do that. That Mexico City is freaking amazing.
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
Yeah, and especially in Chicago too, man. I've been lucky and fortunate enough to paint there a couple times, dude. And it's just wild out there.
Yeah, Chicago's it's a whole world of its own.
Right, and you know, it's crazy because you could definitely see, you know, because in the early 90s and graffiti and stuff like that, you know, like Phoenix had like a real specific kind of style. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you can kind of see like when people would come in from like the West Coast or the East Coast and it would kind of start influencing people and their styles and stuff like that. And I think you guys definitely push that. And I mean, before you guys, I mean, there really wasn't a lot of like crazy piecers in Phoenix graffiti. You know what I mean? I just remember going to like, everyone in Maryville, we used to call it the SUS yard, but it was the one on, what is it, like 47th and like Van Buren-ish or something like that. But I just remember going and it was just like piece after piece after piece, you know what I mean? Like, and dude, that shit, like as a kid, like, you know, only seeing like tags and like, you know, like back then people would climb buildings to rooftops and just do tags, you know what I mean? And that's what I was just so used to, you know what I mean? And, you know, you see like little tidbits and stuff in like books or, you know, spray can art, you know what I mean? Or, you know, wild style and stuff like that. But, you know, in Phoenix, like that was kind of the turning point, I think, for a lot of people to kind of push their boundaries of, you know, what they do and stuff like that.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, there was definitely like and that's part of the reason why the very first crew that started out here was called STR, Starting the Revolution.
Right.
Because at the time I couldn't find really anything or anybody like that was doing the stuff. Now in hindsight, you know, I know people like Such, you know, had been around in Tempe. You know, there was a couple little people sprinkled in there, but there was really not a lot going on. So we started the STR crew, and then you know, just brought in the experience that I had from Chicago, even because that was a norm, just piecing rooftops and whatnot out there. So to, you know, try to bring that flavor out here. But yeah, the 90s, I think definitely was you know, very impactful decade really for the scene out here.
Yeah. What year do you think STR was?
STR was that was the first one that I started. So it was probably in I came out here in the summer of 90. So probably I think 91.
Oh, nice.
Something like that. And then it kind of went up and down because exactly during, like you said, that was during the time. So STR got really big, really fast. You know, I hooked up with people like, you know, a lot of people probably don't know these names, but like Drask was one of my first partners. This kid Spark, Q. I started meeting some of the TWK kids at that time. Started meeting some of the DMS kids. But at that time there was not a lot going on. So yeah, and that's when like tag bang kind of started hitting heavy as well too. So and just at the time, what happened with STR, the way kind of ended was me and Drask were going hard, like all city. We were like driving to California and bombing and coming back. We were going crazy. But STR was deep. And so we had this meeting at a Cano Park, and I was like, yo, everybody has to get up. There's like 50 of us here. And there's like two of us getting up. So, and I was a lot more wild back then. So I was just like, yo, don't even show up to the next meeting if you're not up as much as us two right here, because I'm going to kick you out anyway. And people got butthurt, they got in their feelings, but I was still going back to Chicago every single summer. So when I got back, I was like, man, y'all could have it. Like, you could have STR, man. It's cool. But when I came back after summertime, I was getting caught up in beef that they were still brewing up. STR was brewing up. And so I took it back and I was like, I'll battle everybody that you guys have in STR by myself right now, back for the name. And they're like, no, we don't even want that smoke. So you can have it back. So I took it back. And then eventually it became like a war crew for DMS, TWK, and SUS.
Right. Right on, man. So so you said that you moved here from Chicago in 90. Mm-hmm. What was the conditions like in Chicago back then? Like,
Chicago, but it was crazy. Part of the reason my parents had been trying to get me to move out here since like 88, something like that, like when I was in high school. They got stuck out here for a couple of weeks, and they really liked it, and they were trying to get me to move out here. And so part of the reason that what pushed me over the edge was just the gang man in Chicago was heavy, even though I was never involved in gangs directly, but you just couldn't avoid it. You know what I mean? If you were out in the streets one way or another, or just walking home on the block, like, my brother and sister couldn't go outside and play, type of thing. So the gangs were heavy, the violence was heavy, the graph scene was heavy, like a lot of fighting, a lot of violence, people getting jumped all the time. I mean, my crew was stuck in the middle of all that. And so it just started getting hectic, where I was just worried about this all the time. If I got on the bus or on the train or walking, I just, if you run into somebody else, it's about to go down. And I think I remember one of the last things is like a rider threw another rider off the tracks, off the train tracks. And I was like, okay, this is crazy. I gotta get out of here. And then I just, from one night over, I moved like pretty much overnight. So I ended up coming here in the summertime. But it was wild everywhere in the 90s, but Chicago still has that heavy, the gang history goes way, way, way back over there. So that's deep, and it'll probably be there forever. And even though a lot of gang bangers looked out for me, but like you said, it's when you went out bombing out there, you knew you were going to get chased, guaranteed, by either the cops or the gang members, one of the two, like that was a guarantee. So it just got kind of hectic, kind of stressful. And so I ended up moving out here.
When you would go bombing out there, like, because obviously back then, the housing projects and stuff like that, like that stuff was like, it was super, super active back then and stuff like that. But as a graffiti artist, do you have to kind of steer away from those areas and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's pretty base rule. If you're not from the projects,
you shouldn't be there anyways.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe if you go there with somebody that's from there, but otherwise you don't go to the projects. But you still ended up, you still ended up in those places one way or another. Sometimes I remember running, painting train station, the tunnels, and we're painting a station. We got raided, and so you have to run tracks, and you don't know what a hatch you're gonna pop out at. So sometimes you pop out, you'd be like, shit, I'm in the middle of the projects right now. Like, so good luck to me right now. Or one time in Cabrini Green, which doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
We got stuck up on a water tower. Cops came, busted up a couple of my dudes, but I ended up just laying down on the water tower for a while. And all night, all you heard was just like machine guns going off, like little Uzis going off. So yeah, you definitely steered away from the projects for sure. But again, the gangs are everywhere. So no matter what neighborhood you're in, you're gonna run into a gang member somehow, one way or another. So,
Right.
And as much as you try to keep it separate, because we had people that were banging, that were in our crew, my crew out there, CMW, Chicago's Most Wanted, that we started out there in 87. But they kept it completely separate. When they were with us, they were writers, and that's it. And they did their banging on their own. But when you're out on the streets and running around, the other gang members don't care. But it was heavy, man. It was, you just definitely, it got so deep and it feels so exaggerated. But if we're rolling around in a car and you had somebody that was a banger with you, they'd be like, no, you can't drive even down this through this main street,
Right.
like go all the way around. Because if we get stopped at this light and these cats see me, we're getting
It's
bricks
on,
through the
yeah.
window. So it was you always had to be on your toes over there and really try to stay clear of stuff. But I always got lucky. I ended up making a lot of relationships with a lot of different gangbangers. So luckily I was blessed that I never got caught up directly like that. But it was hectic, man. It was wild. It was, like I said, if you went out painting, there was no question, like, are we gonna get chased tonight? No, you're gonna get chased tonight.
It's just if you're
Gangbangers
gonna
or the
make it.
cops, and either one, and neither one is necessarily better than the other, because the cops are still gonna whoop you and take you to jail. So
Right. Yeah, I remember when I was painting in Chicago. I think we're in like the borderline between Inglewood and somewhere else. But I just remember we were painting a yard and it was like super dark, but it was quiet except for the fact that you'd hear nonstop gunshots everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, and the dudes that I'm with, like they're, being my little tour guide and stuff like that. And they're not even paying attention to it, you know what I mean? Where you know what I mean? Like, I've been in the hood so long where I can tell if it's how near it is, if it's coming towards me, what direction it is, and stuff like that. But like every time I hear it, I'm still on edge. You know what I mean? Like with these guys, they're just like, it's like the background music to every night that they're painting. And I was just like, yo, this is freaking wild.
Yeah.
And but yeah. So what led you to graffiti? Was there like a specific person in your life that you kind of looked up to that did graffiti, or?
It's a good question. I definitely have a very clear memory of Saturday mornings. My mom used to sell jewelry, so on Saturday mornings, she used to make me go with her downtown, just so she wouldn't ride by herself, to go pick up her jewelry. And I remember specifically having a conversation because I would see all the graph on the rooftops. Riding the train, and I remember asking her like, "Yo, what is this?" Because I didn't understand it. I'm like, what is all this? On these rooftops. She's like, "Oh, just dumb kids. They're stupid." I was like, "Yeah, that's stupid. That's dumb." But then a year later, I'm one of those kids.
Right.
And so I think, originally when I started, when I got wrapped up in hip hop in general, we're talking mid to late 80s. It all got, because Beat Street and Breaking, those kind of movies were like back to back. You saw this whole package of stuff. So I had seen Breaking first because I had to go to school in my neighborhood. And then I would see graph around. But then once I saw like Beat Street and stuff like that, I was like, oh, shoot, this is all put together. This is all like part of the same thing. This is fresh. So, we would mess around and bomb the neighborhood type of stuff, or bathroom stalls, little stuff, but I didn't, it wasn't anything heavy. But then when I went to high school, my boys that I ended up hanging out with, which ended up being the CMW guys, one of the older cats, Robert Barrera, used to write Crude, rest in peace. He was a little bit older. He went to a school right across from us where there was other already big established writers. And so he was getting schooled by them, in school, and then we'd hang out afterwards and he would teach us like what they were teaching him. And so we got into it just slowly into there, but it was still kind of light. It was still kind of messing around. But then what happened is he was bombing, they were running tracks, and he fell on the third rail and passed away. Right. And so, I'm 14 years old type of thing. And so it was like one of those things where we're like, all right, that's it. We got to stop. This is crazy. A boy just died from this. And so we had all planned on quitting. But then, other cats in the city started writing stuff about our boy that passed away, like on trains and buses. And like, he your boy died running from me. That lit a fire in us and after that, it was a wrap. Like we went full force, and CMW, it's become the wrath that it became, and still going strong to this day.
Yeah.
So it was my boy Crew that kind of like started schooling us, and then just seeing tidbits of stuff here and there, and then of course you're surrounded by it in Chicago. You go to school, you see it every day, and like you said, once you see those pieces on those rooftops, it's like magic. You're like, what? How do they do this? How did they do these gigantic full color pieces? Like, this wasn't here last night, But that's definitely, so it's definitely my boy Crude, and then just the rest of the original CMW dudes that we just all kind of like learned together and came up together. And then my boy Erie, that runs CMW, still out there. he got into piece and heavy quick, and so he was better than all of us real quick. And so we just kind of followed suit. I mean, I was a toy for a long ass time, bro, for sure. I mean, we're bombing alleys for a minute before we started getting real on shit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're all there, and it takes a while to jump off that porch, but once you get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny because I always talk about like this one specific scenario when people ask me like, why do you do this? Blah, blah, blah. You know, it's so childish. You know, you're almost 40 years old and you're still painting graffiti. And I'm like, yo, like if you could see what I could see, and if you're standing on a rooftop or standing on a billboard in the middle of the night and you're watching the entire city just unfold around you, and you're the only person in this situation right now, like it's mesmerizing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what's so addicting about it? Well, you know, it's crazy because like, and I always tell people, it's like, you know, the process of graffiti is, you know, you got to just trust the process and you love it and stuff like that. But it's that next morning when you go see that, when you're driving down the freeway and you see your shit banging just on the side, you know what I mean? That's where it becomes addicting to me and a lot of people, you know what I mean? Like just seeing your name and everyone's driving by it like nothing's going on, but you know what I mean, like it's like you're a part of this little subculture, and you know and seeing the guys' names driving by as you're riding the train downtown. Do you have any specific influences from when you were a kid from Chicago graffiti?
Say that again.
Like any specific influential people from Chicago graffiti scene, like back when you were a kid?
I mean, definitely even before I got into it crazy. I went to grade school with a cat named Agent in Chicago, and he's a Chicago legend king still to this day. And that's probably also one of the first times that I really kind of saw it, because we were in seventh grade. We were in seventh grade, and he showed up to school like, yeah, I got arrested bombing last time. We were like, yo, that's crazy. You know what I mean? You're in seventh grade, and this fool's like, we're like, that's wild. You mean? And he used to do up all our things. We used to got a breaking crew, and he used to hook up all our gear and stuff. So Agent definitely just by default, because I went to grade school with him, and then again I spent some time with him afterwards. But the crews that were already out and established, UAC up and coming, Telly ran that crew. Telly's also a king out there. You had the X-Men, you had X-Men on the north side, you had UAC, you had a car crew. So there was a lot of, but you didn't meet any of these cats because this was still the time when nobody knew nobody, and then nobody, even if you met them, they were going to tell you that they're not them. Those are cat, Scarce, that was a nasty bus bomber. Back then there was an AOK in Chicago, which all of them ended up turning CMW. So my boy Hype, and he was a shorty back then, but he was already a king at 15. I mean, like he was killing the city. So my boy Hype, he had incredible hand styles, and he was getting up as well. So those are some of the major crews that were out there, killing it early on in the game when I was coming up. And again, it was, you see these people as superstars. If you did see them, you're like, oh shoot, this Telly right there. Oh, you didn't like dare talk to them or something. You just watch from afar, type of thing. So those were some of the heavier, TAC, Taking Our City. That's like Trickster's crew. On the south side, you had like Design. So there was quite a bit of cats, and I was into, of course, I loved the pieces, but it was still kind of out of my reach in the beginning. So I was really looking at all the bombers. I was really looking at the people that were killing the city, and I rode the buses and trains every day. So I got to see all of this stuff unfold.
Sick. So what came first for you, graffiti or breaking?
Like I said, it kind of, I think I was consciously breaking, because that's the first thing that really, because again, in sixth grade, I had to go to a school in my neighborhood. I used to get bused to another school, to a bilingual school. But in sixth grade, they wouldn't let me back in there. So I had to go to my neighborhood school. And the very, very first day that I walked into the classroom, I saw kids breaking, and I didn't know what it was. I was like, what the hell is this? This is weird. I went to Mexico for the whole summer, so, and I came back, and I was like, and I thought it was just that neighborhood that they were doing it in. So I was like, these kids right here are weird. and so that was the first thing that I kind of saw. And then again, and that was a time where, again, Beat Street Breaking came out, and I saw this together. And then I was like, oh shoot, okay, there's MCs and there's DJs and there's graph writers and there's the dancers. And so then, but shortly after that, that's again, we started CMW in '87.
Nice. How did your mom or your parents in general, did they feel about you doing graffiti?
Yeah, I think like most parents. I mean, but it's funny though, and of course my mom wasn't, because I got arrested the first time when I was 17, which technically over there you're kind of an adult at that point, so they didn't have to come pick me up or nothing. But I spent the night at the precinct. But of course, I think they still got the call or something. So, I walked in at 7 a.m., into their bedroom when they're still sleeping. And, my dad, of course, was heated. And he's like, what are you doing? We didn't raise you like this. You're out writing on people's shit. Like, what's wrong with you? That kind of thing. And, like, you're grounded. We're taking away everything from you. And I was like, cool, I still got to, and I was still starving. When you're a writer like that, you're coming up, you think you're at the top of the world at 17. I mean, you think you run shit and you know everything. But I was like, cool, I still got to go to school. So I'm still going to write when I go to school on the buses and on trains. You can't stop me from doing this. And so me and my dad had and probably not till we came here, but we had a fallout for like about a good year where we almost didn't speak over graph, because I was so hard headed in it. And I was like, no, you don't understand. This is a revolution and this is freedom. And I'll go to prison for this if I have to. And now I'm like, I ain't going to prison for nothing. You know what I mean? But we definitely tainted our relationship for like a good solid year where we didn't speak much at all. Now we have a great relationship. And my mom, of course, she didn't like it, but my mom has always been super down, to the point where she like got me a box of pilots like the next day. And she's like, if you're going to do this shit, then be the best and go out there and kill it. I was just like, damn. So, it was, but I wasn't telling pops that, like, well, mom bought me a bag of some pilots, you know what I mean? So, and even through this, but they still were very supportive of even me breaking and doing all that. Of course, they thought it was a waste of time, and, they thought this was just a fad or this was just a trend kind of thing. So they didn't support it for a long time, any of it. But now you see them at all my jams that I throw. Now they've traveled with us all over the world, any places that we've gotten a chance to go to, they'll come out and watch me paint now. You mean, so now they support it 100% because they see like, okay, number one, he's sticking to this. He's not going to stop doing this. And I took it in a different direction, and, and it's grown to be what it is now. So
at some point, did they link breakdancing and graffiti all together? Or is it just like, oh, he's messing up?
No, they understood it because I watched Beat Street 5 million times, so so they watch it too. Yeah. So yeah, we call it breaking. We don't call it breakdancing just because that's like a commercial term that the media put on it. So we call it breaking or B-boys or B-girls. But they made the connection same way as I did, seeing it through films type of stuff. But they not right away, because I also remember going downtown with my mom and seeing a group called the Electric Dominoes, and they'd be performing by the water tower downtown. They'd be at the street hitting, so they knew that I was interested in stuff. But because before that, I hated dancing. They danced at every party at my house, every party that they had. Of course, it was a Mexican party, so they danced. But you couldn't get me to dance. I was like, I'm scared of that. I would just like cry almost. You mean? And I was so much anxiety. But when I discovered like graph and breaking and stuff, I was like, oh, cool. I can just do this on my own. I can make up my own rules. I can, I don't have to paint an apple. I can paint my name and letters. I don't have to dance this way or this music. I can spit on my head instead. Cool. This is for me. So they made the connections, but again, it took them, and they saw, me get in trouble, or they knew when we're getting in fights, or they knew when somebody got jumped, or, to the point where, my mom, and she would pay attention. She would come home and she'd be like, oh, I saw a CMW tag on a bus today going by, or and she'd be like, oh, like, you guys got crossed out over here. So she would pay attention to stuff. So they knew we were wild, but of course, they knew it was also dangerous. I have a good relationship with them. So, when things happen, I would let them know things happen. And my mom always was very like clairvoyant, bro. Like she would have, if she had dreams, some shit would go down. Like, you know what I mean? She had like some kind of bad dream to the point where it would become so on point that like if we're gonna go out painting, I'm sure she used this to her advantage too sometimes. That I tell like my boys like, yo, my mom had a dream that we got busted, there was guns involved, and they're like, oh, cool, calling it off. We'll do it tomorrow. You know, so it took a while, but and they're still learning about it, but they definitely realized it. I think seeing me make the connections.
Right. That's pretty funny how you mentioned that you watched Beat Street like 5,000 times. My older cousins had like passed down like this holy grail of Style Wars that was recorded over. So my cousin, he ended up recording over his mom's wedding tape, and because it came on PBS, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you had to.
All the homies were telling him like, "Yo, it's coming on 8 o'clock tonight," blah blah. And the old trick where you stick a clear piece of tape over the little thing and you can record over anything. And I think he grabbed the first thing he could grab, and it ended up being like the old school, tripod camera video wedding of his, and like the movie stopped, and then instantly you see like his mom and dad taking vows and stuff. And I remember as a kid, like they passed it down to me. They brought me like this shoebox, and they're like, "Yo, you gotta take care of this." And they gave it to me, dude. And I wore that shit out so much to where I remember I was trying to like patch the film together at some point because it just got so overworn from, like all my cousins' friends passing around watching it, and then me, and then all my friends. And oh man, that was some good times. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Everything, you got a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and you hope you fix a tracking on it so you can see it correctly. But that, that added to the flavor of it, because you couldn't really see exactly what was going on. You couldn't see a clear picture of stuff. So you had no choice but to kind of reimagine, like, well, this is kind of what I think they look like, or this is kind of what I feel like. But yes, Star Wars and Subway art, that was it. That was the Bible. That was the Holy Grail of shit. Like, same thing. Watch the Star Wars over and over and over again. You can recite every word in all those movies.
Right. Yeah, everything was always doodads.
Yeah.
So other than graffiti, I know that you've been involved in a lot of things. Like I've seen all the stuff that you did with the activism, the BLM movement and stuff like that, the love fight back.
Yeah.
So why don't you go into a little bit of what Love Fights Back is?
So Love Fights Back. So, after the George Floyd incident, and everybody was kind of on lockdown, there was no way for me to put together like the hip hop events in person, or to do, some kind of dance event or anything like that, to be able to speak up or to do our part, you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, how can we do our part and still get this message out and still bring people together, but being safe? And the homie A, where he had a wall that he had invited me to paint over in Van Buren, the first Love Fights Back wall that we ended up doing.
The one right next to the dollar store.
Yeah, which is buff now. And it got bombed. I was like, y'all buffed it? I was like, that's what's gonna happen. But I'm glad it got bombed, because I'm like, that was dumb. They just painted it white. But I don't know, that's a different story. But so I was just kind of itching, man. And I was like, man, I really want to be able to do something and support it, and I went out to a couple of the protests and things like that. But I would also hear people talk about, like, yo, I want to get my kids involved. I want them to see this and be part of this, but I want them to be safe. I don't necessarily feel safe taking them to a protest type of thing. So he had that wall, and they were saving it to do like a Last Dragon production, which they ended up just doing recently. But I was like, yo, man, I know you're saving that wall, but it's a good wall. Let's do something. Let's do our part as artists, as just in general as hip hop heads. This is part of our thing, is to be that voice for the streets. Let the people know what we're thinking. And he was with it, and then we're like, cool, let's come up with a concept. And me, him, and my boy Mr. Groove, who's been a b-boy and a popper with Fierce Style School since the 90s, but he just recently started picking up cans. He always liked to draw and stuff, and would kind of mimic stuff that we were doing. But in the past few years, he started getting more into painting. But we were just throwing things around, ideas around, and we're all big 2Mex fans. And he was like, well, how about Love Fights Back? And as soon as he said it, I was like, that's it. It's a wrap. That says everything. That's the perfect, it has a perfect balance of everything. I mean, it has that love in it, but it also has like that fight. I mean, like we're about to love, but we're down to get down if we need to get down for the right cause. So as soon as he said the name, it just clicked. And then so I just wanted to get people together. I was like, let's get people together. I was like, I don't want to make this a crew thing. I don't want to make this about Furious Styles Crew or SUS or anybody else's crew. And I was like, and I don't want it to be about our names either. So I try to get people together that either I've never painted with or haven't painted with each other necessarily, or you would not necessarily see painting together. Because I thought like that in itself is going to say something like, cool, all these cats from different crews, maybe some of them got along, maybe some don't get along. They're all getting together for something that's bigger than all of us. And so we put a squad together and yeah, just kind of really collabed and teamworked on it and banged that one out. And it was a right after that first one, it was, the reaction we got from the neighborhood, from the people, everybody was feeling it. And so I was like, cool, let's just take on that writer philosophy that we all know of going all city and like getting up. So and I was like, none of us are going to sign our name because it's not about, and so I know that's a big ask. Like, you want me to paint and not sign my name? Like, that's the whole point. But I was like, no, that just shows how much bigger than this is us. Like, this it's not about us. So, so just, that's been the concept since then. And I think we're at number 6 or something. We had Chicago squad, do a Chicago one out there as well. Have some of those homies in Spain that are going to work on one. So just, it's one of those things that we're like, cool, we want to put this out there. So when the kids are walking by, they have something to see it every day, something that's going to uplift everybody, not just the kids, but everybody. So, it's been good so far, man. And it's been a grassroots thing. Everybody volunteers their time. Nobody gets paid. We raise money. The first ones we came out of pocket, like me and A-Work came out of pocket. But then after that, we just, at the events themselves, we made them little mini events. So people would come by and donate, like, all right, here's $20 for the next. And so we just, once we raise money, cool, now we got money for the next one. Let's buy the paint. And so we just been keeping going like that. So again, it was just our part to for as hip hop heads, as writers, we do our thing, but at the same time, it's like, how do we contribute to what's going on? Because, like you said, at the end of the day, no matter what kind of little beefs or quarrels people have within themselves, like at the end of the day, it's about the system, about beating the system. I mean, that has us in the situation that we're all in right now. So regardless of what crew you're from, regardless of we're all in the same, they look at you and me the same way. We're not part of that 1% the elite rich people. So, whether you're black, white, green, purple, crew, they look at us the same. So it's like, we can do our thing and we can have our competitions, but we got to get above that somehow. And also we're just, we're not kids anymore. So it's, we have to level up everything that we do. Just going out doing your name is cool, and I love it, and I'll always be addicted to that stuff. Like that's in my blood. I fiend for that stuff still, but but the same thing. It's like, what am I going to leave behind? What do I want to do that's going to be on another level with it? So it's been good so far, man.
Yeah, I think people don't really realize how powerful graffiti can really be. Yeah, I mean, because if you look at all throughout history, like graffiti was really predominant when they were fighting against something. You know what I mean? And it was a message, or it was a secret code and this and that. But that initial mural that you guys did, I think it just swept the whole city by storm, because I just remember seeing just left and right it being posted, and people, it was like a hot spot for people taking pictures and stuff like that. And I think I'd seen a few people, like a lot of people out of state, posting it, along with like a lot of like George Floyd posts and stuff like that. And I just thought it was amazing. And just like the all around graffiti response to the BLM movement, George Floyd murals and stuff like that, dude, it's just been, I think for once, everyone's kind of really focused and worked together, instead of, my crew's better than your crew, my state's better than your state, my part of this country is better than your part of the country. It's like everyone's just like, we got to do something, and that's the only thing that we know. But our our way of showing our voices is far more powerful than, you know, a lot of other people see, because, you know, it's not just, you know, the average everyday people. It's not just for us anymore sometimes, you know what I mean? Because now it's the little kids that are driving, you know, with their moms and seeing the rooftops, and when they see a message attached to that, they know that we have something to say, and they can initially, you know, or they can eventually get to that point where they can say something, and it could be bigger than them too.
Right. And it's, you know, and it's cats that, you know, they're it's, you know, I think about the little you and me's. You mean the young you and me's that are going to be the futures. Like you said, they want to know, like, okay, cool, there is a voice, there is somebody that looks like me or talks like me or is into the stuff that's I'm into, that's speaking up for us. And you're right. Also, like, people don't see the power, the value in it, but I don't think we even see it ourselves, you know, sometimes, because I was thinking, like, you know, how crazy would it be, you know, let's say when the George Floyd thing happened, like, if everybody that was out bombing the streets crazy, all right, for a week, nobody's gonna bomb their name or their crew, everybody's gonna bomb the name George Floyd. How insane would that be? I mean, if you just saw George Floyd popping up everywhere, or every time somebody got murdered, like, yo, we're gonna smash the city with these people. You're not gonna forget these people's names. So you guys keep killing people. We're gonna keep putting up these people's names. You know, that would be mind blowing to me. You know, and it would show that power, and we would realize that power. Like, okay, cool, we can still have our fun. We can still compete. We can still battle. We could still do all that stuff. But you know, it's bigger than all of us, and you know, and it's very, you know, it's very ego driven kind of thing. You know, it's about writing your own name. But like you said, it's, you know, and that's part of why I started, like, for a while, started now for fame production. But when I think about fame, because, you know, that's the name of the game, right? Fame. How big can you make this name? How known can you get? But, you know, fame is also just being recognized, just being seen, just being loved. But, you know what I mean? We're out to just telling people, like, yo, I exist and I have something to say. You know, so it's for all the invisible kids is another concept that I use a lot, is the invisible kids. And so, you know, it's for, but if we, you know, if we keep going in the direction we're going, and if people just united a little bit more, you know, we would be able to show the world the power that this has. But yeah, this, you know, this transcends time, and it's universal. I mean, a piece of art is universal. You don't have to speak the language. You can understand what's on that wall. You can understand the feeling, you know, and the power and the passion that's coming off those walls.
Yeah, for sure, man. So besides, just, you know, just kind of jump topics again. So I've known you for many years to always have dance programs and stuff like that, and it's always been you know, I've always thought it is really amazing, because, you know, I always, every time I would see it, or I'd see your shops and stuff like that, and, you know, the kids, you know what I mean, I'd always see a lot of kids coming in, and I always thought that was cool, because, you know, like, someone's got to teach them, and the fact that you had a, you know, like a set place, and they could come in and feel safe, and you know what I mean, like, how much of your career has been, you know, do you deal with kids a lot?
All of it, man. I think all of it. That's if you know, at the end of the day, regardless of what demographic I work with, my basis is always the kids. It's always that, again, because I know what it did for me as a kid. I know how I felt as a kid. I know how invisible I felt as a kid. I know how disempowered I felt as a kid. I know, you know, what it felt like to be bullied, or what it felt like. I mean, so it's always been about the kids. And it started, you know, technically, officially, also back in the 90s. I got a chance to work at a teen center up north, Thunderbirds Teen Center, which a lot of hip hop at that time came around. It was on Bell and 9th Street, Grover's and 9th Street. And that's when I started. But I had no idea, like, you know, when I got offered a job to teach breaking, I was like, what? I was like, y'all gonna pay me to, like, teach people to break? Like, yo, that's crazy. Like, for real? $8 an hour? Oh, hell yeah, I'm balling. You know what I mean? So I thought it was insane. I was like, yo, this is a joke or what? And then at that teen center, I was able to, like, you know, I had really cool mentors there, really cool supervisors there. And we ended up putting up a recording studio in there so the MCs can make music in there. We ended up doing little graph programs. So we had all the elements coming out of there. So ever since then, and that's when I started realizing some of the value that I had. Like I didn't realize, until they're like, yeah, we want you to, talk to kids about self-esteem. I was like, what the hell is self-esteem? I don't even know what that word means. Like what, I've never even heard that word. What are you talking about? What do I know about self-esteem? But then, when they start pulling it out of you, you're like, oh shoot, okay, there is a lot of empowerment in hip hop. I do know a lot about stuff. I can't talk to kids about this stuff, you know what I mean? But you just don't realize it a lot of the times. So ever since the the 90s when I started working there, ever since then it's all my programming pretty much is around kids, and then I try to involve the whatever veterans or adults or OGs or whatever you want to call them. I try to get people involved with that as well to still keep that connection, because it's important to keep that connection between the generations. I mean, for me, hip hop, where we do things differently, and I don't want to do what the rest of the world does, where we have, and it still happens. There's still a disconnection, obviously, so there's still a lot of work to be done. But yeah, pretty much all my work, like I said, even if I work at the universities right now, it's still young adults. Some of these cats are 17 coming into the schools. So I'm still working on that, and I don't take it lightly. I know it's a huge deal, and it's a huge responsibility, and I have to shift and kind of, do the right thing because I know people are watching. I know the kids are watching, just like I was watching cats are older than me. So pretty much all my work is all surrounded around the youth.
All right. Besides being their sensei or sifu or do you, just a mentor altogether to them, do you ever find yourself is it mostly just dealing with breaking, or do you ever get situations where you gotta kind of break down life situations and kind of help them steer them and stuff like that too?
Oh yeah, 100. And again, at that teen center, that it was for the Parks and Recreation Department that I worked for, and it was the at-risk youth division specifically. So but what kid isn't, what youth isn't at risk? I mean, but so it was that specific, kids that were getting caught up and stuff, kids that were getting arrested, or kids whatever that they were into drugs or whatever the case might be. So yeah, you definitely by nature just most of a lot of the lessons that I've learned about life, I've learned them through hip hop one way or another. Hip hop has taught me these things, whether it's I remember going to my first like supervisor kind of training thing, and they're like, this is how you run a team. This is how, and I was like, oh shit, I know how to do all of this. I've been running crews since I was fucking 10. Like
Right.
I know how to delegate, and they're like, you have to, I was like, oh, delegate. I never heard that word, but yeah, when we had that war with JK, yeah, we delegated and we were able to spread out and take the whole city. And plan. I was like, so you realize like, oh, hip hop has taught me hella shit. You just don't realize it because you just think about it in this one little world of hip hop or graph or whatever. So yeah, you definitely. I mean, that's essentially that's the big picture of it. The craft that we do. Whether it's breaking or writing or DJing or MCing or whatever it is, that's how these things manifest. But at the core of it is, what kind of a person this is going to help you become. You know what I mean? And for a lot of people, it's cliche, but for a lot of people, it saves people's lives, right? It's a do or die. Like, we can count hundreds and thousands of millions of stories that people will tell you. That's the first thing that they'll tell you. Like, I was on some whack shit and I found hip hop and it turned my shit around. You know what I mean? So it's definitely that's definitely part of it, and it's a tool because they're not gonna just like we wouldn't listen to anybody preaching to us about something or telling us what to do, but if you share it in a way that they can relate, like, look, I get it, let's go bombing and while we're on the rooftop, I'm gonna talk to you about this stuff, and it's much more receptive. So that's part of it automatically, man. It is, because if it was just anybody can just paint, anybody can just dance or whatever, but somehow you have to pass it on, somehow you have to plant seeds somewhere else, and whatever it did for you, pass that on to somebody else. So it's the only way that we're going to keep all of this going.
Yeah, 100. I definitely noticed, like I noticed like when I now being that old guy that's talking to the young dudes and stuff like that, and I'm like, yo, I remember this, and I remember them, and I remember not listening. So
Yeah.
I gotta figure out a way to talk to them to where it actually gets through to them and stuff like that. Which I'm pretty sure they felt the same way, because they were in the same situation where some OG was trying to kick game to them, and it didn't stick until they learned the lesson the hard way and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've noticed that definitely with hip hop and these newer generation of rappers and stuff like that, and there's definitely a I don't know how to put it, but it's just it's kind of cliche to say now, but it's like the same phrase of like, oh, when we were rapping in my day, we were talking about selling drugs. These new kids are talking about doing them. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because it's affecting the younger generations because that's all they see now, and it's they feel like that's the cool thing to do, and do like all the stuff that's going on, especially in Phoenix, all over the country, and all over the world. But with this, this new opioids that hit the street and fentanyl and shit like that, dude, it's just it's destroying this new generation, and it's crazy. And not even just a new generation too. Like dude, I've met old friends that are older than I am, and I see them on the street and they're stuck on that shit. And it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember you talking about kind of making, something that's bigger than you, and the whole Love Fights Back thing. And I think that's what we're kind of getting things in the works for it, but starting a nonprofit for like artists against addictions and stuff like that. And eventually we're essentially what we're going to do was, we're trying to pinpoint the thing with the opiates and stuff like that, but we didn't really want to just feel like it's just that, you know what I mean? Because that's only one piece to the pie, you know what I mean? Like there's other kids doing other things, and I, we don't want to for them to see our group and be like, oh, I can't relate to them because they're only talking about this stuff and stuff like that. So it's just kind of an altogether kind of a thing is what we essentially want to do, and kind of just call, all the connections that we've had and stuff like that. I mean, like just the hundreds of thousands of people that we know throughout everybody, and just kind of create a common goal of trying to help in the only way that we know how to, and show them that, dude, like this isn't, if we could stop one person from doing that, like even with this podcast, even with the way I talk, I've done I've done a lot of work with at-risk youth for gang banging and stuff like that, because that was my background along with graffiti and stuff like that. But I kind of always jumped on the other side because I would teach art classes and show them that you don't have to rap or play basketball to get out of the hood and to get out of this whole situation. You know what I mean? Because especially with gang banging and kids on the west side and stuff like that, like it's not something that half the time people just assume like, oh, they're just doing it because they want to be cool with their friends. Like, no, a lot of times it's generational. You know what I mean? Like, I got homies that are, their grandpas were banging the hood back in the day. You know what I mean? And now their dads did, now they did, and eventually their kids will. You know what I mean? And we got to stop it somewhere. And and no one ever wants it for their kids, and no one ever wants it for their primos or anything like that. But back then, when gangbanging was really gangbanging, I think it was kind of like, it's like, yo, he's just gonna do what he's gonna do, and to a point, it's like, you can only be so hard-headed and not listen, so much stuff. So what do you see the future for everything that you got going on? The Furious Styles, all the events that you do. What do you see yourself doing in the near future? Like, do you have any big plans, or are you kind of just taking it one day at a time?
Yeah, I try not to like, it sounds weird, but I try not to like put these crazy expectations on myself of like, this is what I'm going to do in the future. I'm going to build this gigantic thing. I mean, because life is just crazy and you don't know what direction it's going to go. And I've been fortunate enough right now that like, if I do have an idea, you know what I mean? And so like with you guys with this idea, you know, just do it. Like, don't wait for anybody. Don't wait till it's perfect. Don't wait, just do it. And it'll just, the ball will get rolling on its own. And it's just that consistency of staying in it. So I think right now, I mean, I definitely just concentrate on longevity. Like I just want to be here in the game as long as I can, and I want to be able to plant seeds so somebody else can take over all of this stuff and keep doing it. But you know, the plans are just to, you know, I think again, I'll probably open some kind of a center again at some point. You know, I'm at the university right now, so that's also a new lane kind of that I'm looking at you know, new, it's a new lane, it's a new cipher, it's a new wall, it's a whole new thing to go all city in. So, and there's a lot of resources in these academic fields, you know, and right now they're starting to listen, you know what I mean? The fact that I can get on full time, I'm a professor of this shit now. So like the fact that we can get a seat at the table, like to me, that's valuable. Like, okay, now that we have these people's ears, let's really like get them to help out the communities. Let's really get them involved. So for me, it's to keep building my relationships, to keep building my resources, so I can bring them back to the village. I mean, I always tell people like, go to other villages. You know, it ain't nothing about being a sellout or nothing. Go to another village, go to different hoods, whatever you got to do, you know, to grow, to find some stuff out, and then come back and bring it back to our village and contribute to that. So, you know, I want to definitely continue with that. I'm also part of a program called Next Level. And basically, it sounds wild. All of this sounds wild. I mean, I walk into my classrooms every day and I'm like, yo, I'm teaching hip hop at a college. This is nuts. Yeah, I mean, I got turntables in the classroom, bro. Like it's bananas. I mean, you know, and I'm part of this Next Level program, and basically, I'm a hip hop ambassador for the U.S. Embassy. So like they take out a squad to different countries. They try to do one of each element. So they'll try to take out a writer, a DJ, an MC, and a dancer. And you go to these countries and you go in like neighborhoods, you know, in their hoods and their needed communities, their at-risk youth, and to also build relationships between them and the United States. Like, we want to share American culture with you. You know, hip hop is as American as it gets. So I'm part of that one. I went on as a B-boy in the first one, but I got to paint when I was in Morocco as well, and I went out there twice. And now I got put on, I just got promoted to a supervisor. So I'll be taking a team of people to Ecuador in January. And so like, you know, like the MC on my squad is One Below from Binary Star. You know what I mean? So the lineup like people is crazy. Like, you know, Chino from New York is on there. Like the people on there is nuts. So I definitely want to continue with that because it's a really dope program. And then again, we get to exchange, you know, with, you know, to be able to travel and do the things that you want to do is incredible. So I want to just continue building my relationships, continue to open and knock down doors. You know what I mean? And it sucks sometimes being the first one that walks through that door. You know what I mean? The first person that walks through the door is the first person that's going to get shot usually. You know what I mean? But somebody has to walk through the door. So for me, it's just to keep knocking down doors, and then pulling people up. I'm like, come on, this door is open. Let's get in here. Let's do this. So that's my overall major goal with all of this is, you know, that we can get to a place, you know, that we're everywhere. That you know, I want everybody, just like we said earlier, I want everybody to see what I see. I want everybody to feel what I feel like. You know, I always say I'm a romantic about hip hop, but man, I believe in it 100%. I believe in the power that it has. And I've seen it all over the world. I've seen it happening all over the world to everybody in all shapes and sizes and all countries and all religions, everything. So for me, it's that is like, I just want y'all to see what I see. I want you to feel what I see, what I feel. Why? Because I know how much power it has. And I know how much, you know, it's still wild out there. Like you said, it's generational. And so to me, these hip hop things can break these cycles, these generational cycles that we have. You know, so I just want to get up there, man, and open as many doors as I can and pull up as many people that I can with me.
Dude, I mean, that sounds that sounds amazing. The fact that you can, you started off, breaking and writing on walls in the 80s, and now you're traveling the world, and teaching that to different people. And it definitely sounds like an all-star roster that you're being able to take and show the people.
Yeah, it's super dope.
Sick, man. Well, so before we get to last words, man, you have any shout outs or anyone you want to give a shout out to or anything?
Man, I want to give out a shout out to everybody that was in Arizona in the 90s, because whether there was people that were shooting at me or that people were bombing with me, like, I always say, like, I want to make a t-shirt that says I survived the 90s, because it was wild. I mean, and to me, it's like, it's a big deal that you survived the 90s, because it was the wild, wild west. But at the same time, and everybody was at different places in their life, and we were all much younger, where everybody's trying to get those spots, and it's the nature of the beast, but at the same time, and like I said, good or bad, but at the same time, we push each other, we motivate each other. So, I'm grateful for all everybody that was around in the 90s. I'm grateful for people like yourself that are still around and that are doing these things and documenting these things. Because we didn't have we didn't have GoPros, and we didn't have dope ass cameras on our phones, and you were still taking the puzzle picture and then taping it together. Right. There's no panoramics back then. So shout outs to everybody that I've come across cross paths with. Like I said, good or bad, definitely, especially in the 90s, because to me, that's definitely a foundation for myself, and that's definitely a foundation that I built off of. So everything that I do, everything that I carry with me, everything, the way I move, it has all those people with me. That has every crew that was around back then with me. Of course, I gotta shout out everybody that was in my crew, because if it wasn't for them, I might have not survived the 90s. So everybody that was down with me in the STR, the SUS, my whole CMW crew, of course, 59th. The 5-9 block in Maryville headquarters. We had cats that weren't into hip hop, but they still rolled with us, and they still looked out for us, and we looked out for each other. So just everybody that was influenced to me one way or another. Just know that at the end of the day, I have the utmost respect for everybody. And I'm glad that we can have these conversations now. I'm glad, I'm happy when I see people from back then, and the beats were so deep that people are still kind of like, I don't know if you remember me, but we had to. I'm like, man, we're here to talk about it. We're good, bro. Like, it's, let's keep it pushing. And I'm super grateful that that anybody even still remembers me, bro. Or everybody, I still be out painting it, and cats come up to me and I'm like, there's no way this person knows, and they'll know. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, so it means a lot to me, because that's what fuels me. It keeps me going, like, for the youth, but it's also for cats like us that are still going in this and still have our head in it. And of course, my family that put up with this and didn't kick me out of the house, because it could have easily, and I would have understood it. And my family was a stronghold, and took, and I know I've been a little bit of extremist on a lot of these hip hop points. I'm not happy or proud of everything that I did in the 90s. I was a little bit of an asshole in the 90s, I'm sure, but it was the nature of the beast as well. So shout outs to everybody out there that's been doing it, that's still doing it, and to the future, to the cats. If there's any, everybody's listening to this, just stick with it, but know that, like, you have to build a game for longevity. So you can continue on, because you're needed. The way we're all needed. So
sick, man. So if anyone wants to reach out to you about possibly getting into breaking or something like that, where can they reach you at?
Any social medias. All my social media is pretty much B-Boy House. Instagram is probably the most common one, B-Boy House. Twitter is B-Boy House. I have a website, bboyhouse.com. Probably those are the main. Facebook has me as House Magana, which is funny, because people are like, oh, you're House Magana. I'm like, Facebook made that my official name. So I was like, not really, but okay. So any of the social medias like that, I've had the same phone number for the past 15 years. So, if you had my phone number in the 90s, you still got the same. I still got the same number. so you can still get at me. And I'm always down to build. Time is crazy, schedules are crazy, but I'm always down to build with cats. you know, and I don't know everything. I'm still learning, and like I said, but being at the age that I'm at right now, you know, I've made hundreds and thousands of mistakes that I know, you know, we can have other people avoid those same mistakes as us.
Nice, man. I want to thank you once again for coming on the show, dude, and definitely giving us an opportunity to talk to you and getting you know better, dude. I definitely look forward to seeing what you do in the future, my boy.
No doubt, man.
Yeah, dude. But once again, man, thank you for everything, bro. I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
brother. I appreciate you having me. And, you know, again, none of the words that you've said to me, I take them all to heart. So I appreciate that. And again, mad respect to you for doing this, because I know this is still work. You know, it seems chill and easy or whatever, but it's still work to do all this stuff. So you know, I salute you for that and the direction that you're going in. And, you know, wish you guys nothing but success with the nonprofit and whatever you build it. And, you know, any way I can support that stuff, I'm here for it.
I appreciate it, man. Well, that wraps another episode up, everybody. I'm gonna put this guy's you know, all of his social media contacts on screen so you guys can check it out. But besides that, man, it's been good having you, dude, and look forward to the next episode. Peace.
No doubt. Peace, everybody.